Scott Brown here. In this exciting episode, we're going to look at my time working in the United Kingdom. So this is a photo of my friend Josh and myself at Auckland Airport in 2012. And we're about to go to the country that I was born in, which is Scotland. I was born just outside of Edinburgh in Dunfermline, and I hadn't been there since I was 18 months old. So Josh is also a carpenter, and we've been mates since high school. And we actually did our apprenticeships in the same company as well. Our loose plan was to fly to the UK, find a building job, save money, and travel Europe, and then fly home. So all those years ago when my parents left Scotland, they left behind aunties, uncles, even my grandparents were still there. So one of the first things we did was hop on a bus to Newton Moor up in the Highlands, and I visited my grandparents. That was super cool. Me and my grandfather stayed up till 3 in the morning watching old James Bond movies together. We went to football games, castles, but we needed work. Now lucky for us, while we were in Edinburgh, my uncle Sandy let us stay at his house. My uncle Sandy's a builder as well. He didn't quite have enough work to keep us going full time, but he had a few properties that he was working on, like this one here, see it's a deck. The house was already built, but we got to build that deck and one down the back as well. And we built it a little different to how I'm used to building it. Over here, you're probably seeing on the channel, we dig a hole and then drop a post in and put concrete around it. But there, we sort of dug a flat sort of scalp out of the ground, put a bit of mortar in it, and then put a brick on it. And then all the joists went on top of there. I remember doing it and Josh was like, bro, what are we doing? This is primitive. We're using like boulders for a foundation. You guys probably look at us putting timber in the ground and think we're crazy. And here's a photo of me and my uncle Sandy leaning on the wall as we're building the deck. This was a really good time for us, but the Europe trip that we had planned was drawing closer and closer, and we didn't quite have enough work hours. We needed a bit more money. The Gumtree ad read something like this: I need carpenters to finish my thatch cottage on the Isle of Wight. The good thing about this opportunity was that we could stay in the house we were working on, and then we could work as many hours as we wanted. The owner lived in London and we just sent him photos. Originally an old thatch cottage, the owner had built 2 wings off either end of it, but he still had most of the internal work to do. We started with oak flooring machined out of railway sleepers, and that kind of set the tone for the job. The owner was also an architect and he had some unique ideas. We would build a shelf out of MDF, we would send him a photo. If he didn't like it, we'd demolish it. If he did like it, we'd demolish it and then build it again out of the material that he always wanted to build it out of. Everything that we were building at least twice. I'm here with Josh Crampton. Right now he's doing a bit of carpentry work. So any hot tips for the viewers?
Hot tips from the viewers?
For the viewers.
For the viewers.
Yep.
What you don't want to do is tile 2 walls, have a bullshit opening, and then just tear it all out.
Right.
You want to do this in the first place.
Right, okay. So I take it that's what's happened before what you're currently doing?
Yes.
Okay.
The solution to 2 walls being slightly out of plumb was demolish the whole part.
Brilliant. That's another exciting episode of Building with the Boys. Tune in next week for how to build a bath from scratch. Josh did pretty well there to hold it together because it was very frustrating. We designed his entire kitchen this way: build, demolish, and then build again. It was demoralizing pulling your own work apart, but we're getting paid by the hour. We were in a beautiful part of England, in a beautiful house, and most importantly, we were saving enough money to travel around Europe. So the Europe trip was a load of fun, and by the end of it, Jess and I had got together. Here we are in London, and I had a European passport, but Jess didn't. She had a 1-year German visa, and it was coming to an end, so we had to return back to New Zealand. This is the part of the story where you see the beginning of this YouTube channel. So 2 years had passed and the 2015 economy was a lot better. It only took me 2 weeks to find work in Edinburgh. I started working for a company that specialised in high-end flats in the West End. I worked for a few months and got to know all the guys quite well. I don't know what they thought of me, but I really liked them. The foreman must have liked me because I got asked to set up a whole new job down the road on my own. So this is the time that I start setting up the camera to film myself working. This is the time I first try out a Japanese handsaw. I would set up my GoPro in different corners of the job as I worked. If anybody asked, I just said I'm filming for, you know, people back home so they can see what Edinburgh looks like. I think I got into a groove there. I would open up the site each day. Some days I would be by myself. Some days there were a few of us there. I got to set up a track saw each day and cover up cool carpentry work from over 100 years ago. Jess and I really loved our apartment too. Jess, point to where we live. Go on.
That way.
Come on, give it a bit more detail for posterity.
You can be able to see it on the camera.
Well, no, I can't zoom in on this.
Yeah, it's literally like right straight ahead. So do you want to go for a walk around that lake by Livingston tomorrow?
Yeah, that could be fun. We stayed right next to Portobello Beach and walked every weekend we could. Jess worked at the coffee roastery in Portobello and she would walk to the beach on her lunch breaks. Life was good. I could walk to the bus stop, take a 20-minute bus into the town, and I'd be on a 300-year-old building covering up beautiful carpentry work and listening to very funny Scottish people.
Welcome to the fucking Scottish weather, Scott.
This is real Scottish weather, right?
My back!
Another thing we're doing is blocking up these. So behind here, believe it or not, is a door, like a proper full-on mortise and tenon door, all varnished up and everything, and we've screwed it shut. And then we've put that board there, foamed it all up, and now we block this up as if it was never there. The point of that is when we go out into the hallway, the door looks as if it's an actual door. I'd been building for 10 to 12 years at this point, and the next step for me was to start my own business. My best shot at that was back in New Zealand. And Jess was coming to the end of another visa, so our immediate families are back in New Zealand. We had to go back. It wasn't fun saying goodbye, but we had to do it.
No,
You can't see it.
I know you can't see it. So I think we've done all right on that.
Yes, you have to. You've done your job proud. Nobody will say the Kiwis are scumbags.
Smile, Jess. Smile for the camera. So you think we're done all right, Johnny?
I'm gonna miss this view.
You've done well, Paul.
Come film
Yeah?
the view one more time, Scott.
I'll give you 10 out of 10.
I'm gonna miss that view so much.
By the way, you didn't want to swim in there, you'd be dodging the jobbies.
No.
It wasn't just the apartment that we were saying goodbye to, it was the little life that we'd built, you know? 4.5 years earlier, I'd got to Edinburgh and slept on my relatives' couches, and now I had this little life with Jess in this apartment in Portobello, and we were saying goodbye to that. I've got another uncle who's a carpenter over in Scotland, Bob Brown. If you meet a Bob Brown, ask him what his favourite festival tour is. That'll get him going. So Uncle Bob and my auntie drove us up to the Highlands to see my grandparents. It actually turned out to be the last time I saw my grandfather. He passed away last year. So I'm really glad we went up there to say goodbye.
Bob, my mother's brother. See, that's what I'm saying to you, Jess. You just can't replace that.
So before we left, we went and saw Uncle Sandy again on his latest project. He was working on a house that he had bought when Josh and I first arrived. And when we arrived, he was telling us all the plans he had for it. And Jess and I went and had a look at what he'd done so far, and it turned out to be quite a lot. He was nearly there.
And you can set your preference of drink
Yep.
to my setting. Alright, so every time you hit it, it'll come up.
How do you feel about that, Jess? I learned a lot. I learned so much in that time. Even just the way I conduct business and the way my outlook on everything has been affected by my time in Edinburgh. If you're still here, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Hopefully I'll be doing some carpentry. We are just moving from level 4 to level 3 in lockdown, so that might be highly likely.